to Fantasy Pavilion, your home for fantasy sports.
Welcome, guys. Welcome to a whole new segment, a whole new show, F1 Fantasy. Of course, before we dive into anything, please like, share, subscribe. We're trying something new, trying to encourage you guys to play a new game of a whole new sport. For myself as well, I've been following for a while, but not avidly. Of course, I'm joined on my usual course of the FPL side, Antonio, and we are joined by a special guest, a fan of F1, someone to help us understand F1, not just the fantasy side. But it doesn't make sense you're going to play a fantasy and you don't know anything about the sport, any of the rules, any of the racers, any names at all. So to guide us and help us out with that, you have Ezra Burnley. Ezra, thanks for coming through, bro.
Welcome.
Right. So
Yes.
later down, we'll be joined by another fanatic as well too, who will try and guide and help Ezra. But for now, Ezra will be burdened by our idiotic questions. But before we get into anything, Ezra, um, why F1? Is F1 your favorite sport ever, or is
Um,
it something that you just saw over time? Why
yeah,
F1?
man. It stems from racing, right? So I love looking at racing. Like, so I will go up to Wallerfield and watch drags or watch a go kart or even go to Five Islands now and just drive whole day. Like I will spend money and just drive. You know what I mean? So that's where it actually comes from, fast cars and things. So that's where it starts, the inception, and then you know looking at Netflix. So Netflix is a real big catalyst in my life too. So I watch a lot of shows or whatever, and F1 was Drive to Survive was a show that was there recently, so 4 years ago, and I put it on and I was just like, wait, boy, it's real bad. So I started watching it. I'm watching it and I binge watched the whole season. And then after that, I get real interested in the sport a lot more. So I started to do more research and, as the years go by, just continue watching the seasons and just fall in love with it like that. That is, and then when you fall in love with it now, you had to know everything about it basically. So yeah, you're going to research the hell out of the sport. Yeah, that's kind of my backstory on where I started.
Right. Antonio, before we started this journey here, you knew anything at all about F1? I mean, you knew it existed, obviously, but anything at all, like, it ever interested you at all, Antonio, ever?
To be
Not the
honest,
fantasy, yeah, but just as a sport,
yeah, to
really.
be honest, when I first saw F1, no, to be honest, when I saw anything racing on TV, I saw we just see NASCAR and F1. So I said that's how the
Right.
two of them are the same category, and I was be like, nah, that's not really my cup of tea.
Right.
But of late, and I saw a lot of commotion about Lewis Hamilton, this and recent records on this. I like, all right, so where's the hype? I want to see where's the hype about now.
Yeah.
That's why I see Ezra and Lorenzo, and they used to post on Instagram the results for these matches. I used to see Verstappen, I used to see Ocon sometimes.
Hamilton,
So you see
Ocon,
the big
yeah,
boys. You see the big boys. You see the three big boys, and that's it. Podium men, and that's it. That's to be
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
if it's consistently these three big names or whatever, what about the other racers now? So that's why I kind of wanted to see what it was about, and that's when Ezra and they told me about Drive to Survive on Netflix. I started it and it was going real good. So that kind of influenced me to really watch the sport now. So yeah, and well, obviously that with that comes the fantasy after, which kind of gets you more intrigued because now you go want to know what going on behind the scenes in real life as compared now. So yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, Ezra, like in anything, any sport, I assume there's a class, there's a league, or there's some type of hierarchy or tiers. Now, it's 20 drivers normally in the main race that we're following from now till next year, correct?
Yes, 20
Now,
drivers,
is
10
it that
teams.
is it that this in this sport there's no way that these drivers are all crappy. None of them are crappy. They cannot be in that top 20 and not be
Nah,
elite, great, awesome. All I don't know. Of course, they're not, maybe they're at the edge of some, but there's no way. Because let me draw a reference. You can watch some teams in the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, Serie A. Those are crappy teams. But these guys are by no least, none of them wanted 20, none or below the top 10, I should say, in the second half of that world, but normally podium or not podium. Those are not crappy players, racers, sorry, at all.
nope,
Explain
nope.
that to me, how these top 20 are
Okay,
chosen.
so they chosen from plenty different ways, right? So the main way is like they most of them have experience in driving since they were youths, like 12, 10, 11, like since they're young they started driving. And F1 is a sport where it's like a big fraternity in a sense where everybody knows everybody who in the sport. They know all the teams, they know everything. So you basically have to live the sport in order to be a part of it now, in a sense.
Right.
So like ordinary person like me can't just go and say, hey, I want to be a driver in F1. It's kind of impossible. But at the same time, it have people who slip through the tracks, the cracks like a Lewis Hamilton, where he started off his dad working a couple jobs just to give him the money for him to go and buy a go-kart to start racing or whatever. And then from there he went on to different categories in racing all the way up to F1. So it have like F3, F2, F1, and there's plenty other categories in between. And it's kind of like everybody who racing now, all 20 of the drivers, they know each other from different categories or lower categories, or knowing about them racing, seeing them racing and stuff too. So they kind of know each other for over like 7+ years, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I don't know if that answer exactly what
No,
you
no,
want.
no. It helps because I mean, just to know how we get that say and hierarchy and stuff. All right, no problem. So of course, football has its great players, right, Antonio? Like Timo Pukki and Lukuri. Just joking. But who are the no? Forget no, right? I want to talk about past, right? If someone is getting into F1, I want to do a little research. Now, I know you mentioned the Netflix
Yeah.
documentary. But if someone is Googling F1 and they want to Google top past racers, who are some of the names? You could give us some of the obvious ones. 'Cause I know there's an obvious one for sure that I will say, but you could give us them for sure. Because again, it's for the newbies who never ever followed, seen, watch a clip of F1. Who are some of
Right.
the top names that you should know that have laid the foundation for some of these guys to come now and do what they're doing?
So, well, one of the biggest ones, he's actually set a couple world records that Lewis Hamilton recently, surpassed. Is Michael Schumacher. He is from Ferrari, one of the best racers ever, dog, in history. He has the same amount of championships as Hamilton. Um, then you have guys like Nicky. You have guys like Vettel. You have guys like um, Fernando Alonso. Like all those guys are really, really good racers to follow. In terms of if you want history on the sport, yeah, that's some nice fellas to follow.
So guide us through. So this season, no, let's not even go there as yet. How do the races work? Right now we know it's a Grand Prix.
Hmm.
So what is there any other how to say? Well, are there any other sub competitions that go along with this season, or is it just strictly all the Grand Prix from the varying countries for
They
the year, or is
used
there
to
any kind
do,
of
yeah, it used to be like before Grand Prix. Grand Prix is so much history with that. It started off where it was just regular races, right? F1, the regular races and stuff. And then they started to categorize it by, country. So there's like a British competition, then there's a Spanish competition, but what happened is each country allotted like a couple races. Not country, sorry. Each region will be allotted a couple races, and then it grew from there into a Grand Prix. So now it's so big, like the sport is so big. Now each country that is involved in the sport that has a race has their own Grand Prix. So is each country now represented. So their countries like just name it. There's all over the world. There's a lot of them. I have a couple of them here that I had up. So for instance, we have like some new ones and then some ones that get banned. But we have Bahrain, which is really is like one of the at the start of the year is one of their first races that they really get to test the cars and test the new specs and see how they will be for the rest of the season. So Bahrain is a real critical race. Then you have like Saudi Arabia. You have um which one is like in what I can say, but how I can say this is like is another big like each team they have like their own country that they represent, if you know what I mean. And so they have like Miami is a new race. They have like Barcelona. They have Monaco, which is the richest race, is like the best one. Like everybody
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
to
yeah.
all the stars, all the big names go to that one, Monaco, and like have people like um this Ferrari driver. What's his name again, boy? His name is Leclerc, Charles Leclerc,
Right,
right?
right.
He lives in Monaco, and then you have Verstappen. He lives in Monaco also. So they drive and they live there also. So they live in on the street that they're driving on,
Oh
which is fun. And then they have places like Baku. You have a Canadian Grand Prix, which is a new one. Then there's the British Grand Prix, which is the one of another big one, and that is Silverstone Circuit.
Silverstone, yes,
Yeah.
yes, I heard of that. Yeah.
Then there's the Austrian Grand Prix, which is like Red Bull. So Red Bull, that's Red Bull home.
Right, right.
That's they have a big bull that they have out that is just in the middle of the track is one of the best ones. Um, then there's a French one, Hungarian. Then there's the Belgium, Dutch. There's an Italian one, and well, they used to have a Russian one, but it's no longer on the list, sadly.
Right.
Singapore. Singapore is actually the only Grand Prix that is held in the night. Because I don't know, it just the timing it don't really match with the guys because of the part of the world. So
Right.
they can't really change their sleep schedule, so they kind of hold the race in the night. Also, there's a Japanese one, then United States again. They go back to United States. Then there's a Mexican one. Then there's another like the last two. There's a Brazilian one, and then there's the big one, the finale, which is Dubai, and that also is like evening into night because of the time frame and where they are in the world. So yeah, that's a lot of tracks now for
No,
me.
yes, a lot of reason. And I'm watching the schedule and I find it a little tough on them because as you mentioned, some of the countries have to adjust the time. Sometimes have to race in the nights because I'm watching they're like what 4 days between a race and some of them have to fly from one end of the world literally to the other end.
Yeah.
That schedule kind of mad because I'm watching here. So you're leaving from Australia to go Italy
Mm-hmm.
then from right say in Europe for a little bit, and then from Azerbaijan all the way to Canada, then from Canada back to England, then England. That is a lot of back and forth. But I
Yeah.
mean, these guys know they're up where they do their thing. What are some of the what are the conditions these guys experience? I can imagine going in a car going at that speed.
Bro, it's
That
G's.
has to be
It's the
very
speed.
very
Yeah.
hot.
Very speed. They like I saw interviews where some of the drivers talked about they losing like 6 pounds and thing in a race because of how much they sweating and how fast it is and the speed and things. So the men real fit. They eating healthy though. They don't know they have to do to race that car for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And for instance, like on the point you just made in terms of, you know, that short space of time, like not this today, but this weekend in in the practice races
Bahrain,
that they
yeah.
were in Bahrain, they like Haas, one of the teams, Haas, they
Mhm.
were their freight came in late, so they weren't able to start practicing because, you know, the plane came in late and
Right.
their car, you know, were there late. So what happened is they now have to practice in the night to just catch up with them and
Mm.
stuff. So, you know, it sets them back a little bit.
So, what are some of the rules and terminologies that we hear while we're watching a game? I mean, football has offside. Or
Yeah.
cricket has, why this, that, that. What are some of the? Because I mean, I try to watch some races and sometimes I just see someone gets a penalty, or sometimes it's no. I mean, I don't want to talk about the controversial into last season. We can get into that a little later. But what are some simple tunes that people come across? Okay, let's start very simple. The Grand Prix again, right? The Grand Prix.
Hmm.
So all of us played Burnout, played Need for Speed, played Gran Turismo. We should be familiar with a Grand Prix, but break it down. How does the Grand Prix work? How do they gain their points? How does
Okay, so it worked by each race. So at the end of the season, which is all the races, they will calculate the most amount of points, and whoever gets the most amount of points is the world champion, right? The races, the points are, so it's 20 people that race, right? 10 teams, 2 people per team. Some teams have like 4 people, but that's like backup drivers and stuff in
right?
case of practice, or they want to test the cars, or, you know, they want to try new things. The drivers can't test the car and race at the same time, you know, so they kind of
Mm,
have to have backup drivers for them. But
fine.
they only allotted 4 people. um so back to what I was saying. So there's 20 people, only 10 of the 20 drivers get points. The first 10, the first person gets 25 points, and then it goes
Okay.
down like that, right? And the last
Right.
person gets 1 point, and then
Okay.
there's also a bonus point for the fastest lap. So if you under the 10 but you get the fastest lap, you will get the point, you know.
Right. Right.
But if you're also in the top 10 and you get the fastest lap, so that's an additional point to where you was getting based on where you placed now. So at the end of, as I say, the season, you'll calculate all those points, and that's how you tell who's the best driver of the world. You know, that's the guy world champion like that.
No, the player, no, it's not necessarily racer. It's more the car or the team, I should say, that gets the points. Not necessarily.
Mm,
Because I want to ask a weird question. I want to ask a weird question.
yeah.
In the event, let's say, so 4 or 5 races in,
Hmm.
um, let's say Verstappen gets injured. Is it a case that he has to bow out and only his
Yeah.
second teammate
Yep.
in, or is it that someone can't hop in the car
No,
and
no,
because it's
no.
just the car? No, I
It's
just ask
it's
it,
the
right?
person themselves. They get the points. So at the end of the day, everybody's still competing against each other. Although you're on my team, I
Mm-hmm.
still, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
competing against you because I want world champion. But what happens? So because of that, they have 2 categories. There is the the regular drivers, you know, competition, which is the racing and the world championship, and then there's the constructors. So the constructors is the teams themselves that compete against each other. So that's based on 2 things. There's the so okay, so you can get points by, I don't know how to explain it, but so it's based on overall points. So as much, so if your 2 teammates make real points, that's overall points that
Right, right,
you consume
right,
as
right,
a team.
right.
Yeah,
I
I
get
think
you.
that's the best way to explain it. But
Yeah,
then
that.
it have another way how they calculate it, where, for instance, McLaren, right? McLaren runs a Mercedes engine. So McLaren will have uh McLaren chassis. They build it. They build
Right.
the car. So each team has to build their own car in order to compete. They can't outsource those parts or anything. and they have to also build the engine. If they don't build the engine, there are certain engine people that they could go to and get their engines. They could tune it themselves and fix it themselves or whatever. But it's still a part that they outsource, which they're allowed to do. Um, so, for instance, Haas and all the smaller teams, they will have to do that. Even Red Bull outsources their engine, but their chassis is what they build inside in house, and that's how they kind of calculate it also based on those things. So, men
No.
like Ferrari, men like Mercedes, they build a chassis and the engine, you know. So they don't really have to worry about those problems.
Right. So Kevin asking here, so does the constructor get the same point as the drivers? So basically what you was explaining just now is if both cars finish well, if both races finish well, then the constructor itself gets something from that.
Right. So it doesn't matter if the both cars finish well, but who like so the team it still calculates how much people. So Hamilton get the most points. Like let's say he get 100 points,
Right,
and
right.
then Bottas when he was racing with him will get probably like 90 points or whatever. And then they have Red Bull, Hamilton, Max will get like a certain amount of points, and then Alonso will get a certain amount of points. And based on that, so Team A, Team B, whoever have the most points as a team will get, the championship for the constructors.
Okay, understand where you're coming from. Yeah. So, Antonio, any questions, anything at all before we move on?
Everything going good so far. Understand everything.
Yeah.
Hamilton
Okay,
will get his
so
points for his
Michael jumping
position.
in just now here.
Then Mercedes get his points as well. Yeah,
No, yeah, no understand.
Michael
Yeah,
yeah.
Schumacher coming in.
yeah.
Yeah, that's one.
So,
He say
I
call
just
him
had
Lewis
had a
Hamilton.
good question here that just jumped off as Kevin jumped in here. Big up Kevin, by the way. That's one of our content creators here on the crew here. What's this going okay. So, Grand Prix points races. So explain. There's a term that I came across. So okay, what happens in the event of an accident? Because before we even get it, you were talking
Mhm.
about engine, chassis. So is there when the races start? Is it that they have to register everything that they're using on the car, and the constructors or the let's say Mercedes, McLaren, all these guys, the teams, they cannot now, let's say, submit a engine later down the road,
Nah,
or is there
there's
some
no.
kind of policy? How is that?
Yeah, there's a lot of rules when it comes um to like making changes or adjustments to the car. Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of rules and stuff for that now, like making changes to the car or adjustments to the car while the race is going on or before the race starts. So I think I don't know what day they do it, but I know um there are lots of checks now. Plenty checks that they check before the race, after the race. They will check the day before while they're practicing or qualifying or stuff like that. They check all the criteria. Um, there are a lot of teams that in the past get penalties for doing certain things that they weren't supposed to do. And like when I talk about penalties, it's not no joke penalties. It's like $1 million penalties. Like,
Right, and you could
you know,
even help, you could segue into that as well because I know it have point deduction and stuff. But as you go
yeah,
ahead
they
and
have
we can
point
get into that, yeah.
deductions and they have, like, bro, there's so much rules and regulations when it comes to this sport. As a fan, I wish I knew exactly everything and how
Yeah,
they classify it. But I have to say like I wouldn't know exactly what
yeah, for sure, for
to
sure. I
say.
know,
Yeah.
I understand. So I guess we could describe the race, So not race weekend, sorry, race
Race weekend.
weekend,
Yeah, yeah.
weekend because it's not a day, people. It's a weekend,
Nope. And it
right? So
always fall on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
right. So break that down first one time. What happened
Right.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
So most times they come like on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. They might land. They don't really do anything. They get to practice on the Friday, and then they qualify on the Saturday, right? Or they might practice on the Tuesday also. It depends on the track. It depends on the timeline and stuff. So then they qualify on the Saturday. Qualifying, they used to do it where everybody is like a pre-race. So everybody race each other on the track, and then the fastest time on the track is where it started on the race. So when polling, right? They call that polling. So that's where you'll know if you're starting first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, going all the way to 20. But they do this new thing called sprint. So it's sectors in the race on the track itself, like certain sectors. They'll break it up into 3 sectors, and the fastest person to do all 3 sectors for every round. So there's 3 rounds. The first round will everybody race, and then after that, the slowest 5 will get kicked out. And then second sector, everybody race. Well, not race, but they drive around the track, and then fastest sectors on all three parts of the race, 3 parts of the track. They now calculate that, and then the next 5 out, and then they'll get the top 15, and then they'll get the top 10, and then they'll get the top 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way down. So that's how they calculate it on the Saturday, and then on Sunday morning now, bright and early, race day. Favorite part of it.
And that is how you determine who's starting how on the track itself.
Yeah, on the
At your place.
On the placement. So that will happen the day before.
Now, what are some of the penalties that someone can incur? Give us one example. As I say, we know everything, but with the qualifying, what can you get penalized
so like
for?
if you drive off the track, or if you cut over a line, there's certain like lines that you're not supposed to pass over. If you hit somebody intentionally, if you slow down, intentionally, there's certain things that is so much rules. There's certain things that they watch because they could tell if a man really trying to slow down so he could get slower time, so his teammate could get faster time. Like there's so much tactics and strategies that they use. For instance, they in the last couple of races for last season, Alonso, which is Max Verstappen's teammate, he was driving very defensive for Hamilton. Hamilton was behind him, and he was doing a defensive driving, so he wasn't allowing Hamilton to pass him, so Max could get the distance. And then eventually Hamilton passed him, but Max was already so far ahead that it took him a little while to reach back up. But Hamilton being Hamilton, he catch him. But still, that's the kind of way the tactics that teams do also. Yeah. But for instance, if he did that and he slowed down or he made again an accident or run him off the road, that's like penalties that could cost millions of dollars.
Now, a certain driver, like he didn't know that, but we won't go there yet. Right? I want to bring him a meet here, Michael. Thanks for coming through, Michael. Big fan of F1.
Evening, guys.
Good evening.
Right, so Michael, we have Antonio and Ezra here on the chat. Now, Antonio and I don't know anything about F1, Michael. We brought you all on to teach and to encourage others to watch. Before we go any further, Michael, why F1? How long are you watching it? Is it your favorite sport? Is it just something that caught your eye and that was it?
So I've always been a fan of racing. My dad used to race up Waller Field. So as a child, 3-4 years old, he used to carry me up to the racetrack. And because he used to race up there, he knew the drivers. So he used to go into the pits. So I've always had an affinity and love for cars. So as I got older, Form 4 is when I really discovered F1. I mean, you always knew about Schumacher, Michael Schumacher. You'd hear the name and you'd hear about Schumacher and things, but I was never into F1. And it's in 2014, I think I was in Form 4. And that's where I said, okay, cars is something I love, is something I'm going to really be interested in. And I started watching Formula 1. I got attached to Lewis Hamilton immediately. Not just because he is the only black F1 driver, but just in history.
Yeah.
Formula One has been around for the past 75 years, and he has and is the only black F1 driver. But to top all of that, he's the only black F1 driver, but yet he's the most successful F1 driver. He has more victories, more poles,
Yeah.
than anybody else. Right now, he's equal with Michael Schumacher for the most championships, which is 7. And last year, he could have made it 8 if it is the conspiracy didn't happen, but we ain't going there
If it
just yet.
wasn't for those, if it wasn't for a certain person you just called son, you would have probably. If it wasn't for a certain person's son,
The only, well, it's not just a certain person's son, it's the man who sadly I share a name with. And that's the sad thing because it's really not Max's fault that he won. It's that man who was calling the shots. So I think all Lewis Hamilton fans, we're not mad at Max Verstappen.
no.
It's that next man. So when it is things happen, I changed my Twitter name to Fire Michael Sassy. But yeah, so since Form 4, 2014, I've been following F1. Massive Lewis Hamilton fan, massive Mercedes fan. So I've been there through the Seb Lewis battles. I was there for the 2016 Lewis versus Nico battles. So I've been there for some of the more recent history. But I genuinely love this sport. So I have notifications for when F1 videos come out from the official Formula One site. YouTube page, I read articles online nearly every single day. So I'm really into this sport. I think it's amazing, not just the technology, because they build cars to go over 300k. And these guys are going around corners. It's like going around corners on the highway at 300k. We do that at 150 and we just feel like we're going to die.
Yeah.
So, you know, the engineering, we're doing nothing wherever car we have, but
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
it.
I don't think you'd have any police listening, right? But yeah, I think just the engineering aspect of it, because my background is sciences. Like I grew up doing physics. So what I would now is IT, but I did sciences all through secondary school. So there's an appreciation for the physics and the science behind the cars that they build. And then the drivers themselves, because we drive fast and we think, oh, we got like whatever. But when it is people understand a driver could put something like 5-6 G's on his neck during a race. We get 1 G on our neck and we had to go buy a chiropractor. So it's just impressive the level of not just the cars, but also the drivers behind.
Yeah, they have some huge like all
So I got now before you came, so as Ezra was, competently, guiding us through how it works. He was guiding us through some of the past names. Now I'm glad you brought us something there. So who are some of the present names that everyone should know now? Not just the obvious ones, but the present boys now. Who are the and not just that, who we should be looking at going into
To fantasy.
it is not just if we even
no,
touching
no,
fantasy yet.
just general.
Just the season alone in general.
Just the season alone.
Before we talk about fantasy, when everybody
Other
can
than the big
understand.
names.
Yeah, they understand. So who are some of the big names and then who are some of the prospects that are coming
Okay,
up?
so-
I know
so-
that Hamilton has a new teammate. So talk us
Right.
George
Yeah,
Russell.
so big names is definitely Lewis Hamilton. I went over just a glimpse of what he has already accomplished. And as I said, he has a new teammate, George Russell. So Russell has been a Mercedes junior driver since I think 2014. He won Formula 2 championships and he was upgraded to Williams. And that's true dealings with Mercedes because Williams is they take their engines from Mercedes. So Williams cars have Mercedes engines in them. So because George was a Mercedes driver, they used that influence to get him a seat in Williams. And Williams was, and to some extent still is, a backmarker team. I mean, last year was a great year for them. They finished, I think, 9th or 8th in the championship, which was a big improvement because since like 2014, 2015, they've been finishing dead last. So that's a big step up for him. And why it is so they call George Russell Mr. Saturday because the car, the Williams car was not very impressive. And so those who don't know, Saturdays is when you have qualifying. So basically all the drivers go out on track, try to set their fastest time, and the order in which you finish, fastest times to slowest times, is the order in which your grid lines up to start the race. And they call him Mr. Saturday because the car is not one of the best cars. It's probably the worst car. But yet he gets to get into the second round of qualifying. So it's a kind of round of elimination style. So it's 20 cars. After the first session, they drop 5 cars. After the second session, they drop the next 5 cars. And the final round is 10 cars on track to determine the top 10. And last year, he was able to put the car in Q2 on a significant number of places, and even on some occasions in Q3.
Yeah, Q3.
And that's with one of the worst cars. So he gained the name Mr. Saturday. And then in 2020, Lewis Hamilton got COVID. So he was out for like a week, which is crazy, because we get COVID here and we out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But these men get COVID and in a couple of days they back out. But so Lewis got COVID, and there was a big scramble. It was decisions. Who are they going to call up to replace him for this weekend? Because you don't want to not run your 2 cars, especially when you're fighting for a Constructors Championship. So George got the call up because he's been a Mercedes test and reserve driver, and he's been on the program. He's familiar with the team and that kind of thing. So they gave him the opportunity that weekend in Sakura in 2021, and he impressed. He put the car, I think, either on pole or second to start the race. And this is somebody who has never driven this car before. The car was actually too small for him because I think Lewis is 5'7", and he's nearly 6 foot. So he's fit himself into a significantly smaller cockpit. Yeah, and he had to fit himself into Lewis's seat. So Lewis is short, but he has frame, whereas George is very thin and very slim. So it is not even the ideal sitting position, or he's not fully comfortable, but yet he was able to drive the car. And if it wasn't for some pit stop blunders, he probably would have won the race. In his first time racing in a Mercedes with a seat that wasn't his own, in a cockpit that didn't feel comfortable. So he really impressed everybody, and it was a heartbreak to see that he didn't win because he was on track to. He pulled off some amazing overtakes. He went up. He overtook his teammate for the weekend, Valtteri Bottas, who has partnered Lewis since 2017.
That is Antonio's favorite driver.
Well, I see I have a bed like his 2.2 now.
Bottas. I didn't want to talk about that, man. He upset me, but go ahead.
Yeah, so George Russell definitely is somebody to watch this season.
Also, George Russell manager is Toto. He's the
exactly
manager of Mercedes. So he manages the team, and
right. Yeah, no Toto for sure. He's a live wire.
He manages Toto. So you going in Mercedes with no customer.
Easy.
Exactly. Yeah, business fix as it is.
Easy.
Yeah.
So both of you, right? What do you think about Ocon as a driver? Do you think that he needs a new team, or is that what's holding him back, or you think his time will come? Because I like him. He's my boy. I admit that. I do something to not admit, but I really like him. What do you think about his chances? Not necessarily, getting podium right through, but just in general.
Antonio?
No, we just here's the. That's for both of you. That's for you, Mike.
Say one more time, sorry.
Yeah, Ocon, right? So Ocon is my favorite driver. I just want to know what you think about Ocon. Should I get a next favorite driver? I won't do. I'm a very loyal person.
No.
Ocon, what do you think about Ocon?
No, Ocon.
Is he someone? Is it the car that holding? Is it the team that holding him back?
It's definitely the car, because that as Ezra, right? So I seen it as one on right. Toto is Ocon's manager as well. So he already have a foot in the door at Mercedes. So I honestly believe if when Lewis decides to retire, it will be a Ocon and Russell pairing there and thing, because both of them are Mercedes drivers. Stoffel Van Dorn is the test and reserve at Mercedes, but he's doing great in Formula Electric. What do you call it? Formula E. That's the electric version of Formula One. So he's the champion there. So yeah, to come back and race in Formula One would be cool for him. But at the same time, if you have something good going on, stay there. So yeah, I think honestly, Ocon is a great driver. He just needs that opportunity. So if it is a situation arises like 2021 Sakir that gave George that opportunity to shine in the Mercedes, if that came up this year and Ocon fill our place, it would be amazing.
Yeah.
Because he has a lot of talent. When it is he won this race last year, I think it was what, Turkey?
Yeah, in Turkey.
Yeah, he won in Turkey last year, and that was real impressive because
That's his first.
his first win.
Yeah, his first win. Yeah.
Oh, his first podium in F1. No, he had a couple podiums already with Force India.
But his first win, like.
Yeah, his first ever win, and with Alpine, that
But
thing.
that
And
race was dread because not real shit happened in that race.
yeah, that race was madness. That race was absolute madness. But yeah, that just goes to show he has the talent and he has the skill to put the car on the front row.
So my
what's
favorite racer
go ahead.
is Lando Norris. That's the guy right there.
All right.
So
And
why Lando,
what team is he from, Ezra? For those
he's
watching.
McLaren. He's
All right.
He's.
Mhm.
I will say he on point for McLaren right now, and Ricardo is the backup driver.
That's only because Ricardo not reacher, and then the McLaren car built around Lando. It doesn't suit his style of driving, so Daniel has to readjust his entire. And as Daniel has talent, he's just never been at a team that gives him priority.
Yeah, he's always.
Because when he joined Red Bull, it was Vettel he was there with. Then Max came in, Max eclipsed him, and they stopped developing the car around him and they started developing the car around Max driving style. And then he went to McLaren where the car was built around Lando.
He went Renault first.
He went Renault. Yeah.
He went Renault first, right? He went Renault. And I mean, Renault wasn't that good.
Antonio answer that.
Wait, like, hey, that is not good.
I mean,
he watched one Netflix series and he feeling everything in my God.
That's true. He was Renault.
No, but he spent what, 1 year at Renault? Because he was contracted for 2 years, and then when McLaren tell him, he say, "Yeah, I go in McLaren." So that 1 year and that 1 year, he probably had one podium or one victory with Renault. So it wasn't even anything magical.
Yeah.
So before we get into the fantasy, as this new season is coming about, no, I think we'll try and do a proper season preview episode. Mm-hmm. But as we getting into this new season, what are some of the for lack of a better term, what is some of what drama or what bacchanal or what unfinished business? What are some of the things that we should know going on? Not just the obvious ones, but what are some of the rivalries that would have happened maybe the last 4 or 5 races or so, but among some of the other drivers? Who are some of the guys that had some good run, good form coming in and down to the end and making that now into Saudi Arabia? Who are some of the guys to look at, and what should we know going into this new season? What happened last season that's going to influence maybe an interesting start for this new season?
Rivalries at Ferrari for sure.
Ferrari in internal rivalries.
In that Sainz started to eclipse Leclerc last season, and I read an article whereby Benotto started to favor Sainz. So that started to hurt Leclerc a little bit because Leclerc was there. He was the glory boy.
Youngest.
So I think definitely something interesting might happen at Ferrari.
I wasn't looking at that too. That's some good talk later.
So what you're saying is with the two drivers there, number 1 and 2, number 2 might become 1.
No, well, I don't think they were treating either of them as number 1, number 2. Maybe Leclerc had a little edge over Sainz because he was there longer. But Sainz came into the team and he settled in well. He didn't. It was like, so just how like Ricardo went to McLaren and he catches tail for like the first half of the season trying to figure out himself. Right. Sainz jumped into the car at Ferrari and he was able to drive it. And in the second half of the season, he was outperforming Leclerc. So I think definitely it's gonna be a power struggle between the two of them this season. I mean, you might have on like how in 2016 with Nico and Lewis they clashed on track. Maybe you might get that possibly. So that could be a little drama there. So yeah, I think that's the biggest one I could spot from far. That could happen. Alpine, I think tensions they normal in Alpine. But I think definitely if Fernando gets a chance, he's gonna push his elbows out and fight a little harder in the midfield.
I think in Austin Martin to have a little tension with Vettel, like he's getting real. He's not happy with the car. He's not happy with what's happening with the team and the performance of the team. So, I think something will happen with that too in terms of
but the thing with Seb is he had his glory days. His best in most recent times was at Ferrari before Leclerc.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think honestly, as much as I love Seb, he's a great person as a driver. I think he's on his way up. Yeah, 4-time world champion and consecutively the man win, I think it's 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. Back to back.
Yep.
With Red Bull taking the constructors.
And that was it.
Yeah, and that was it.
GG.
Now you're calling these names, you're calling these team names, right? Forget teams, not forget teams, forget the drivers, right? Who are the top 4 cars in your opinion? So Michael go first and Ezra go first. Who are the top 4 cars in your opinion? Then who are the cars that, that
in
just
my opinion, or in reality? Which one?
Fine.
And you can't really say it because it's a whole new era car. So until these cars hit the tracks, we still can't say. But if we going on,
so I was say before
going on last season.
Right. So based on last season, who are the top cars? Because from what I'm understanding, as much as Lewis is a great driver, the Mercedes car itself is not necessarily the best car. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I've been hearing and reading and seeing. So just because you have a good driver doesn't mean so. Guide us there. Who are some of the best cars? And then some of the cars are not meh.
So I will say on top is Mercedes, of course. Then you have then you have Red Bull, right? I kind of in between McLaren and Ferrari right now in terms of knowing exactly where they line up in the championship. They come third. But still, I don't know. I think McLaren are a little better.
McLaren had the edge, yeah.
So then McLaren, then Ferrari, and then there's then who else comes after that boy? There's Renault, which is now Alpine. Then for sure Toro Rosso.
Mm-hmm.
And they take a 6th place. And then from there it will be help more. I don't know who.
Aston. I'll put Aston, Williams, Alfa Romeo, and then Haas last.
Haas, yeah. Haas is
bottom of the barrel.
No, you ever went on with them?
Yeah, they drop in Nikita.
They drop Nikita,
They drop Nikita and they bringing back Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah.
That headline going all over Twitter. What's the implication of that? What's the big?
So he raced with them a year ago, like not last year, but the year before, 2020.
And he was racing with them for like 4 years straight before he took a step back. Yeah.
So he was there for that, and then. Well, they didn't renew the contract, and then Mazepin came in, and that was last year. Mazepin can drive aggressively, but he's crashed too much. But
like a particular driver?
Mazepin.
Yeah.
But not like another. Speaking of aggressive, I was asked Michael before we get into fantasy, right? What are some of the guide, because as you was touching on it a little bit, right? Guide us real quickly. What are some of the rules and terminologies that we have that
you might be able to help
in terms of so I will give a scenario. So The guy that won the last season, right? I keep seeing tweets. You have to explain to me.
Hey,
I'm
hold on,
because I just
this
say,
one not even saying he name on it.
right? No, I'm very upset.
So
I'm very
not
upset.
saying
Right?
no.
I'm a blind region. I upset. I upset. But hear him out, right? So the guy that won last season,
Mm-hmm.
that was given the race. Sorry. The guy that won
Who
last
was he
season,
was given the championship? No, let's say for what it
right?
is.
The one, right? The guy that the FIA gave the championship to. But I ain't going there. But anyway, we were told that he is an aggressive. I saw a lot of tweets. Or there's a split of a team. He's an aggressive driver. Or
Mm-hmm.
that's how he's supposed to be. Because he says that himself, right? He's an aggressive driver. And
Yeah.
the race is to win and be on top. No problem. But why is it some of the things that he does are not penalized? Because I'm sure some of the things that he does are not okay. So like forcing a
Yeah.
driver off,
Or
and
forcing
that
a
for
driver
sure
off
is
the
a
track, not giving the
right.
space.
Blocking them because I see there's explain that one, the blocking. I know that you can't really not to say
Right.
you can't
So
block, but
in the rules, when it says you're approaching a corner and you're challenging for position, so say you're in front of me and I'm right behind you. If I position my car at least halfway up your car, going into the corner, you're supposed to leave me a car's width, a space, so that I could fight to take it on the inside or go around the outside. Whatever. Once my car is halfway up yours, you're supposed to leave me that space. And whoever goes into the corner first or ahead, it's their corner. So they dictate what line they want to drive. So in a lot of situations last year, Lewis would be right up at the side of him, or in a lot of cases too, in front of him. So yeah, say this is Lewis, this is Verstappen. Lewis would be going into the corner first, but Verstappen would be, let's say, halfway up on him. And Lewis will give him his space, but it's still Lewis's corner to dictate how he wants to think. Does he want to take a wider line? Does he want to take a tighter line, as the case might be, and squeeze Verstappen? Verstappen, when in that situation, he tends to squeeze the driver so much he has one or two choices. Either you keep driving your line and we crash, or you come off the track. And coming off the track in that position means going over the curbs, which damages the floor of the car, the carbon fiber and thing, because as strong as it is, it's still very delicate.
Yeah.
When going over these things, especially at the speeds that they go over it. So Verstappen is an aggressive driver. I find he's too aggressive. Like, I get wanting to challenge and defend your position and thing, but at the same time, there's rules for a reason. So when it is that, so a prime example is, and a very controversial one, is the British Grand Prix last year, when it is he and Lewis crashed. And, well, Verstappen crashed, but he hit Hamilton. Hamilton was halfway into, yes, as Christian Horner said, nobody throws a wheel up the inside at cups. But the rule dictates that if it is you're halfway up the car, you're supposed to be left space. And granted, Verstappen left him some space, but he still tried to squeeze him. And that's why the wheels came together and he went into the barriers in a 51G impact, which 51Gs is a lot,
Yeah.
And he just got up and walked out. But so that just speaks to the safety of the sport. But at the same time, there's like Brazil, where it's blatant that Max forces a driver off the track, and he had to go off the track himself because he was just being too much. And they didn't penalize him about it, but at the end of the day, he could not keep Lewis behind.
Yeah.
And I think some drivers, when it says they realize they're going to lose, they get desperate and they start to do all kind of rotations. And that's where the FIA needs to step in and be more consistent in their decisions and their rulings and penalize certain actions. Because, yes, on one end, we don't like a overly heavy-handed FIA whereby for every little thing, 5-second time penalty, drive-through penalty. Like, let them race. But at the same time, if a driver is doing something repeatedly, not just over the course of several races, but in the same race, several times he's doing the same thing.
At least
You had to do something about exactly some kind of penalty, something to hit him, because you can't be doing that, especially when it is a sport on this level and people fighting hard. Fair is fair at the end of the day.
What is the basic response or protocol response when there's an accident? So then, and particularly, what is a safety car? What does that do?
Right. So there's different things that could happen. So on a racetrack, there's different flags that could be shown. So different flags that take different things. For minor incident like Mazepin spinning, they might wave the yellow flag. So what a single wave yellow flag tells a driver is to reduce his speed by I think 80%, reduce his speed by 20%. So he's driving at 80% or something like that. So that he's approaching an accident, he needs to slow down and be aware of the situation. If it's doubled waved yellow flags, meaning to say they're waving 2 yellow flags, it means to slow right down and proceed with extreme caution. Prepare to stop. There might be marshals on the track, etc. And then there's a red flag, which pauses the race altogether. Meaning to say, if a red flag is shown, everybody re-enters the pits and the race is paused. A safety car is what you do in a situation whereby it's in between. It's not that bad an accident that we need to red flag the race. But it's not so minor incident that we could just wave a yellow flag on or let pass it while we clear it up. So usually the safety car goes out to control the pace of the cars, to slow them right down. So if it is average lap time is 1 minute and 25 seconds with a safety car out, that time might go up to closer to 2 minutes time. That just slows the cars down a bit, give the marshals and the emergency crews time to clear away the accident, fix back the barriers, because God forbid another driver goes off at that exact same position and the barriers aren't back. So think about it as the integrity. After one impact, it reduces from 100% to 75%. If it is you leave it at that, the next driver that goes into it, he does not have 100% protection. So you put out the teams to repair the barrier back to close to that 100% if possible. So that's why they might put out the safety car. If it's minor and it's just to push back the barriers and place that kind of thing, to remove the car off the track, if they could push it off because it crashed in a place where you could push it off, roll it off, or if you have to get the crane to lift it off the track or whatever the case might be. So usually if it's a minor incident, you put out the safety car goes wrong for maybe a few laps. As soon as you see it reaching to some exorbitant amount, like you're going over 5 laps behind the safety car, you should red flag the race. So that way, one, you don't have drivers just running around in circles, consuming their fuel, they're eating up their tires. Then these cars, they perform in a certain window. So when it is you're behind a safety car, you're trying to manage your temperatures, get enough air into the car to cool it down. But at the same time, your tires need to be at a certain temperature to work, quote unquote, to get that grip into it. So that's why in Formula 1, you see them swerving behind the safety car, because that added friction will heat up the tires to keep them running. So in my personal opinion, it's not a set rule that, okay, if it is a safety car, it's going to take more than 5 laps, you should put a red flag. But in my opinion, to preserve racing so that you have as much racing as possible, as soon as a major accident happens and you're going to have to put out the safety car, if it is you see 3 laps, 4 laps, and you realize, okay, cool, it's not going to be change your tires and allow them to not have to rush to repair whatever incident, so you could get back to full racing after. But so essentially the safety car is for not minor, but incidents that don't warrant a red flag to pause the entire race.
Yeah.
So they can stall a little bit. While they
Essentially,
clean them.
Sometimes
to
you'll get a
slow them
virtual
down,
safety car too, so it wouldn't be like an actual car on
safety
the road.
car on track, correct. They just have to slow down their speed to a certain, I think they say keep the delta positive. That just means your lap times need to be a certain amount higher than the average lap time or something like that. So it's different things like that. So slow the cars, it's all about slowing the cars down, because instead of going around the track at 250 average, they're going around at 1 something. So it's slower, more time to work on the incident, it's just a lot safer.
And then there's a penalty for when you break the flag. Because I remember seeing the Netflix thing. I remember seeing Hamilton when one of the cars in front. I think they were doing for the Saturday. It was for the Saturday, and one of the cars in front of Lewis spun out, but he spun out in the streets, and Lewis said he didn't see the flag.
He didn't see the yellow flag.
He didn't see the yellow flag,
Yeah, and Lewis continued driving,
and they punished him,
Punished him, and then they like a 10. I think Christian, of course, went and fight him down, and they had the whole 10-second penalty
Yep.
Penalties are doing nothing. What you got?
Clearly.
Especially in Brazil.
I know.
25 place
I
grid
was
penalty. This man
going
fight
to
back
say
from
that.
down.
My goodness.
I don't think any driver had that odd stuck to this against them and came back and win.
And
I mean,
Wait.
granted, the sprint format is new and only in the sprint format something like that could happen. But to essentially fight your way from 25th on the grid to the front, that's amazing.
yeah, that's mad. All right, so let's now. I have a lot more questions, but we'll save that for our preview because you touch on something that I'm always interested in tires. They always talk about medium tire, this tires, but we'll save that for the big race preview for story. We'll do a nice show for that.
Next
keep
week.
those- but I want to definitely talk about that because I know that is critical and integral. And of course, we have to talk about the most important crew members of the whole thing, and that's the pit crew. But we'll talk about that next week. Because I love to see that Antonio showing us some highlights. The way that they, oh my goodness! You see, what's the record? What's the record? You all know is there a
The
record?
record, I think, is read by Red Bull is 1.87 seconds.
Jesus.
I was like,
1.87 seconds. They take off all four cars, all four tires, put on fresh tires, and the driver is out to the box. It is not even a full 2 seconds. So you can't even say they take a second to take off.
One.
1,000, 2 1,000. 4 tires off and on. Is literal clockwork. Is a thing of beauty in all honesty.
Yeah, I love to see it. I love to see it.
Because and it's such precision to it. Because you had to think about the two jackmen. They need to take that car up as soon as it stopped. The guys had to pull off the tire. The jackman himself has to push it in at the same time, rip it off, and then push it back in. And it's like, amazing.
Okay, per tire, I think is 3 men per tire.
It's 3 men per tire. Then you have the front and rear jackmen. So somebody count how many people we calling. So it's 3 men on each tire.
Right.
Tire on, tire off, and the wheel gunner. So that's 3 by 4 because it's 4 tires. So that's 12 men already.
12 men already. Wow.
So you have 2 stabilizers. So when it is the cars on a jack front and rear, they have 2 people holding the car in the middle to keep it stable. So that's 12 and 2, 14. You have the front and rear jackmen. That's 16. Then you have what you might call wing adjusters, meaning to say 2 guys on the front who might just make minor adjustments to the front wing, whether they want more down force to the front of the car, and they do that literally by just turning an Allen key to tighten it up or loosen it up or whatever the case might be. So that's 16 plus 2, that's 18. Then you have backup jackmen. For some reason, the jack failed, the jackman fall down, because these guys are coming into the pits at 80k and then having to stop on this thing. If he breaks cool, or like in Lewis's case last year, he left the magic switch on. He will kill run over a driver, so you need a backup jackman there to get the car up. So that's 18 plus, it is like a 20-man to 22-man team to just take off 4 tires and put them back on. And this is in an era of F1 whereby you no longer have refueling. So imagine if it is you had refueling mid-race, how much more men it would have to get this thing done.
Yeah. That's crazy though.
We'll definitely touch on that way more. So I have this here ready to show you guys. So of course we had to break down and talk about F1 first. Right? Doesn't wait. Oh gosh, you start. So we had to of course talk about F1. So I want to of course thank Michael and Andrew for helping us with that aspect. So now I want the expertise now to break down and critique this team in terms of not just fantasy, but in the sense of the real world, right? So what I did, guys, now I am no expert at F1, I'm not lying to you. I used to follow a little bit when I was younger, of course, with Alonso, Schumacher, those kind of Senna, right? Back in the day, I'd follow a strong word. Once it was on, I will take a peek, that kind of thing, right? So I just use my FPL and UCL fantasy head because that's where Antonio and I come in now. We'll use your expertise, but our skills in the fantasy world now and break down how to pick the right team. Now, of course, you can pick 2 teams. So we'll do a live team selection right now with the help of the guys and everyone. But I want you all to, critique my team here, what you all think, and take it away. And you're gonna laugh at
I wanted to say
the
one thing.
constructor. Go ahead,
Yeah,
let's go.
nah,
As this year 2022, both of us, we won't know how the cars are gonna perform because it's new cars.
mhm,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So that's
yes,
a
yes.
big, huge factor in choosing like a team
Team.
right now.
Yeah,
So
I know it's early. It's early.
yeah,
Yes.
Teams
Yes.
gonna change after that first race, and everybody get kind of gauge. Everybody team gonna change
everybody
after
team
that
gonna
first
Yeah,
race.
of
change.
course,
All
of
these
course, of
fantasy
course,
teams are
of
gonna be
course.
like, oh nah, scrap that.
Of course.
But
Right.
I
So,
think
but based
when
on past form, like if
yeah,
some, let's
Based
see
on platform.
how we will pick, because how I will pick, because remember now, we don't have in football, yes, it's friendlies and whatnot, but most times a friendly is nothing to go on
yeah,
with football. It is nothing, at least with y'all, with this, y'all, this practice run is actually a good gauge to know what's going to happen. They're going to set
not
us up.
only that, but I think the benefit you'll have in football is your players just play a lot more. So you'll have a lot more
Right,
statistics to
right,
look at. Whereas,
right, right.
our season is just 22, 23 races.
Correct,
You'll
correct.
have something like 50 something games for the year or for the season or what as the case might be. So I guess that's where the benefit you'll have.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you're building a Formula One fantasy team, because you have a budget to play with, you have 2 years you could go. I personally would always choose the constructor that I want, the car that I want, and then build the team around the car. So you
Right.
could go for a mid-level car or a very cheap car, so to speak, and then get just all the best drivers.
Right, right. So
Um,
the car is the fodder, more or less. We don't really
the,
care about the car. The car is the goalkeeper. We don't really
no,
care about the car too
No,
much.
no. I wouldn't say
More
it's the
the
goalkeeper
car, but
because the
not
goalkeeper is an important person too. I think so. Like I built 3 teams. I mean, for our league here is 2 teams.
right, right,
But for my teams, I will do the best car and then at least one great driver and then just fill up the team with whoever else.
yeah.
right, right.
And
Okay,
then you
so
can do something like,
And
in
that's
your
because
okay,
of
okay, well, you know
two
what?
reasons.
Let's do
That's
that.
because of two reasons. Is first
Mm-hmm.
reason is, as I was saying like previously, remember all these guys, they compete at such a high level that they all really good drivers at the end of the day.
mm-hmm,
And if you lost a race, the person who wins the race and the person who lost the race is by literally seconds. It's not even to
very
say,
true.
you know what I mean? It's not even to say it's like a whole minute later or whatever. It's
Yeah, the
literally
biggest gap
seconds.
you might get in modern F1 is at 10 seconds or something like that.
Exactly.
Correct.
So all of them could actually drive very good. It's
Right.
just based on the car. So if you
Very true.
look at the car and get a best performing car and you put a driver in there, it's just based on who have the better day, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't
That's
look
it.
at the cars the further, you know. I
Yeah,
look
if
at
everyone drove the exact same car, if everybody drove a Mercedes, it would not be as easy for Hamilton or something like that. And
Right,
that's
it's
not
not.
to disrespect Hamilton,
Mhm.
but it's just the challenge that would be there. Because instead of just fighting with Max, people who could actually challenge him would be Max. You could probably get challenged from Leclerc, from
Leclerc,
Sainz,
Sainz, Alonso.
Alonso, because Alonso still have I think Alonso have plenty hate for Hamilton still. As much as he does say he respects him now, Alonso
You
still
know,
hates
like
him. He don't like him at all. Um, and that's it. I think so. That's it. The car makes a big difference. The car
but that's a
makes
big thing
a
for this
massive
year
difference.
too, in terms of Lewis and George. They want to see how much of a difference this gonna be now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that they have the same car now, if it's
Yeah,
gonna matter.
but I mean, if it is we go off of what George did in the car in Sakir, clearly he has the speed and he has the ability to handle the car. So it's really just to see this 2022 car exactly how big the difference is and who adjusts better. But I think everybody knows that George is a great driver.
Run it, run it.
All right.
Just
So
for Lando in that Mercedes, he win every championship. Let's continue.
good. Let's all
Yeah, I'm
right.
a
Well
Lando
then.
fan, boy.
let's make a culinary team, and then you will critique my team, or you want to critique the team I had.
Now you for
Actually,
the fun of it, let me see you make a team and then we say
no, but that
And
was
then
my
we,
team. My team was created. That's why I did that. So you could,
oh, that was your team then. Okay.
so
But
you
we
could
didn't
let
get
me
to
know.
see it. I mean
All
I
right, let
saw
me
it,
bring it
but we
back.
didn't get to see it that long.
Right. So you're seeing the team here. Let me manage. Click manage
Right.
teams. Right.
yeah.
So Ocon, I'm not. I'm not getting
So
rid of
let me see who's the
The
constructor. I think
constructor Alpine.
Alpine.
Alpine. Yeah.
Right. So Alpine is a good midfield car. I think they finished what, sixth last year
Yeah, 6.
or seventh? Yeah, sixth or seventh. So it's a good
6.
mid sixth. So Alpine is a good midfield car. It's
Right.
balanced. It's not the
Right.
fastest, but it's not the slowest. It's in the middle.
Right.
And it
They
only
were
cost you
once
how
on
much?
top,
14 mil.
They were
14
once on
minutes.
top,
Yeah, they had a glory days back in '03 and '02 when Alonso drove for them when they were called Renault. And they won championships back to back.
Yeah.
So my constructor looking all right. That's okay.
Yeah, that's an okay constructor. I could get that.
Right. Moving on up now.
And drivers.
I'll put the big boy.
Yeah, well,
I
we could
mean,
tell you, yeah, Ocon fanboy.
Yeah,
because he
I
get
had
picked
it with
first.
him.
He get
You have
picked
to be
first.
there.
Yeah.
No,
I
what
personally
I
don't
let
have a
me
problem with this driver lineup.
no let me
Yeah,
break
I think it's
down.
a good lineup. It's a good
Let me
lineup.
break down. Let me break down now. No, as I say, I don't know my ass from my elbow when it comes to F1, but I'm familiar with the fantasy aspect. So what I did was I looked back at the track record of some of the guys. Looked at no,
Mm-hmm.
I do not like Bottas at all. But I went on a psychological epiphany and I tell myself, you know what? Seeing as now he's not in a particular person's shadow and he can do his own thing now. Maybe this might be his chance. Now I know the car that he's dealing with is not necessarily the best,
Right.
but he's a great driver. Say what?
Mm.
Say what?
Yeah,
He's
he's
a
a
great
good
driver. All
driver.
of them are great drivers, but say what you want. So I tell myself, you know what? I think on a psychological vibes, he might be more focused, might race better, push himself better, not just relax and be in a certain person's shadows. He will push. So I tell myself,
Mm-hmm.
right, that's why he there. Of course, Ocon just there because I love Ocon, no problem. I watched Leclerc. Leclerc was in and about the vibe, not looking too bad. I watched his track record, not too bad. So I say, you know what? I didn't know much about Norris, but I was just watching his races for from last season. I didn't look
Well,
too bad. I
Edge
don't
was
know
at a
much.
smile at TC as you say Norris, so clearly he can tell any track record.
I don't know
Norris is the
anything about
man. Norris is
Norris,
the
but
man.
but so guys, critique man, break it down. Is this team now? I know you say we have to wait till this weekend pass, but based on past form and for amateur like myself, what do you think? It's an okay team
Yeah, man.
as I
I
picked it
think
on my
it's a
own.
good team. I think it's a
I
good
think
team. It's a good team, yeah.
it's a good team. How I would build a team is that, okay, so there's guys who's always gonna be podiuming,
Right.
or once they have a good day, they're always gonna podium. And with F1, the points go: first place is 25, second place is I think 18, and then third place is I think 16 or 12 points for third.
Mhm.
I think so. So you want at least one man on your team that is gonna consistently podium. And for me, on this team, that would be Hamilton.
For sure.
It's
For sure.
very rarely
For
Hamilton
sure.
does not podium.
Right. So he's our
Um,
seller.
right. So he's the star.
Right.
So you want at least one big driver that podiums on a frequent basis, because he's gonna be pulling a large chunk of your points. Then you want consistent drivers, and I would say Ocon, Norris, at least Norris and Leclerc are very consistent. On average, every race they finish in the top 10, so they're gonna get
Right.
some points.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Right.
Norris, I would maybe edge over Leclerc simply because of the car. The McLaren was a bit more consistent last year, and Norris was consistently finishing in the top 5.
Okay. Okay.
So I would say yes. So you have consistent finishers.
In terms of
Bottas,
the standing, he came. I think it was 6th.
Norris.
It was Max, then Hamilton, and then Alonso, and then Bottas.
Alonso
No,
finished
Alonso,
third.
no Alonso. Third was
I think Bottas finished third.
it was Bottas, yeah, and then Alonso fourth, and then it was Leclerc or Sainz. One of
And
things Ferrari man, and then
mm-hmm. It was Sainz and then Leclerc. I think. I'm gonna check it quick.
yeah, because you're coming sixth.
Can you? Can I leave that page? Here?
So and again, that was a kind of basic pick one, but I didn't want to just. I didn't remember you have a budget to work with, so I had to be smart in how I was negotiating.
Yeah.
And
But you
and
see that last year when Bottas was driving the Mercedes, he was also like in the top, like his number, I think it was like 25 million or something like that. And now
So
he's 9 million.
The standings last year were Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Sainz. Norris beat Leclerc last year. But they went far. So Norris finished with 160 points. Leclerc finished with 159. So they were practically level. Right. So Norris finished sixth, but with 160, and then Leclerc with 159. So they were practically on top of each other.
Yeah.
So I say it's a good team. I think my only questionable person in this is Bottas.
Right.
Not because Bottas. No, and I have nothing against Bottas. Bottas is a great driver. As I said, living in Hamilton's shadow in Mercedes, he wasn't given maybe that support and attention that he needed. But being the big boy or being the senior driver at Alpha, now they're gonna give him that respect. They're gonna look to him a lot more than Guan Yu Zhou, to get feedback on the car and that kind of thing. So definitely at Alpha, he's gonna get the attention that he needed to be a better driver. But I still don't think that the car will be great enough to really push him. I mean, he did some amazing things when he was at Williams. He used to be fighting at the front when he was at Williams. So clearly he has the talent and ability to. But I don't think the car might match or give him what it is he needs.
Yeah. He's like a president. But and with this team here, aside from your boy Ocon, they all were in the top 6
of last year.
Top 7 of last year. So it's a good team.
It's a great team. Yeah.
No, I have a doctor friend that I'm good with, and I asked him just for some names, and he gave me these names here. He said Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, George Russell, and Carlos Sainz. Because I explained to him how the fantasy works, and he would say, I was asking him, okay, who's some good? Give him a mixture of some guys, potential and great. So I'll call about those names again: Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, George Russell, and Carlos Sainz. What do you think about that?
That's two.
No, probably can't get all those men in one team, but
the 2 McLaren men and George Russell.
Yeah, that's essentially 2 McLaren, the 2 Ferraris, and George Russell.
Yeah.
And all of them have potential to be. I mean, Daniel maybe not so much because of his age, and these other guys younger than him are maybe a bit faster. Although Daniel should not just be shunned. If it is, we're talking about potential. I think because Leclerc is, I think, 24, 25. Leclerc is my age. Norris is my age, 24, 25. I think, no, Norris is 22 or 23. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is, you look at Hamilton, who is in his very late 30s,
like
still racing at he's 38. And at the pinnacle of his career. Look at these guys who's 20-something in early 20s. They have a lot of growth. They have a lot of growth to do. I think Daniel.
How long is that? How old is Alonso? Nothing is like 40s or something.
Yeah, look, Kimi retired last year, and Kimi was 42.
Lord.
Yeah, Kimi Räikkönen. No, he was a legend.
The Iceman. Yeah, we love Kimi. We're gonna miss him on the radio. Definitely gonna miss him on the radio.
You don't say nothing though.
No, it's when it is he does come. It's when it is he have those moments when he bet, and then he had those moments when he vex. And he's like, what do we have a penalty for? He say, well, you did this thing, so they give you. And he's like, what I did that they given me a penalty for? He know how penalties does work.
The man racing so long, dog. He know everything, dog. He know every rule. Dog.
Yeah, so that was I mean, you're gonna miss Kimmy on the radio, dog.
Right, let's
Definitely.
say build this new team here.
Yeah, so
This
you all
year,
guide us
this
now.
year.
You all had a guide, you're guiding me here, guiding the viewers, constructor. So you said this is the what you pick first, or you advise. This is
Yeah,
what
I
you
would
pick
always
first.
advise you
Right.
pick your team first. And why you pick your team based on the kind of drivers you want. Do you want a group of elite drivers? You want the best drivers.
Well, we picking two teams, so give me something. Based on what I have here, give me
That's it.
something for my
So
second team.
that's the thing. How the points does go? You get the points that I think that the constructor gets. The constructor
Yes.
gets points of
Yes.
both drivers. So if it is you put a constructor like Mercedes, you're going to be getting Hamilton points and George Russell points because
Boom.
that's the points that Mercedes
Yeah.
pull.
Yeah.
And then if it is, that's the best team there. But then so you're gonna have that gonna take out the chunk of your budget. That's gonna take out how
Exactly.
much?
Exactly. So
How much
Mercedes is
Mercedes?
34 already.
34,000. So you're left with 76 million to shop for your drivers.
Shop with the drivers now, yeah. And if you
And
buy
so
Lewis, that's already a big chunk going there.
that's practically all your money. You can't really, you're gonna
Yeah.
have to pull it up with Guan Yu Zhou and well,
You can't get there. I think
you
if
can't
so if
get
I'm,
thing.
right. So go ahead. You all guide me. You all guide me.
Yeah, so if it is you go, that's it. So you had a billion team. If it is you want the best drivers, then you choose a midfield team. So you choose a Alpine, you choose a Aston, a Alpha Tauri, or a McLaren. And then you choose your drivers. So you could get a big driver, say Max or Lewis, because they are the most expensive drivers.
Okay. Well, let's try the McLaren and see. It's a little more
Yeah, so
expensive.
let's go
Yeah, right.
McLaren.
Well, let's
I get that's
try the
our
McLaren.
best
Right,
choice.
so we
Then,
add in
yeah.
them.
Yeah, I think McLaren is a balanced car.
What I wanted to show the show.
If
the
I ain't
viewers
gonna lie to you, if
Hmm.
Hamilton wasn't in this sport, I was a McLaren man all the way down.
No, I still have affinity and love for McLaren because remember that's just what Lewis started off.
And I will always start. Oh, you see, I see.
And the only reason why McLaren went downhill is because after the contract ended with Mercedes, they went and partnered with Honda. And when it is McLaren was the scapegoat and the test ponies because they had the Honda engine when it is Honda wasn't developing no good engine. Honda used McLaren as the guinea pigs, build the best engine and get the best engine to Red Bull.
Red Bull, yeah.
See all
But
these
yeah,
things that
McLaren's a good team.
So what I want to show the viewers real quickly. So guys, especially for those that are new and don't know the gibberish that these guys talking, but you want some insight, you could come right here and put overall, and you'll get some idea of what happened last season. Now, of course, again, as you guys keep reiterating, this could go out the window real quickly by Sunday. Because when we find out when Bahrain finishes, then we will know now a better idea. Because it does not work like the other sport. But again, just have a provisional pick. Just have your team by the time. So you could join the leagues by the time. You could use this guy. But you can't mix and match your team up until Saudi Arabia. Right? So, boom, we went with McLaren. So we're going now to the drivers. Talk to me.
How much you spend on McLaren? 18?
So we spent 18 here.
All right. I mean, so I say, let's say the top three drivers, your top 3 or 4 drivers, they're costing you between 30 to 18 mil. You want at least one of them, whether that's Hamilton, Max, George, or Charles. Let's say the top 3. You want at least one of your top 3 drivers because you know you're going to be getting podiums from them on a very consistent basis.
But you see,
Every race,
right?
every other race.
Last year it was Bottas instead of George, right? But because George driving for Mercedes now, George is number 3, right? And he is 24 million. So you could see already Mercedes is not that they're the best, but they're the best, though, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he get the price hike, not for nothing. Yeah, so he
Okay.
might be a trap.
Yeah, true. He might be a trap. He might flop.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a
well,
big
He
trap.
really might flop.
Because that's how you could tell. Is what I mean. How you just all of a sudden? None of that don't make sense. Because how he could drop Bottas from quite 20 something when he was at Mercedes, doing well, all the way down to. Because look, but that's not even here. How that makes sense? So someone who know, I know you say he's a good driver and whatnot, but this will be his
The
first what full
team is
season.
it's
So you get
yeah.
points for Poland. Poland, you get points for that, or that's strictly races.
No, you getting points for that
No,
too.
you
As well.
don't get points for Poland.
No, I
No,
think
you
in
don't
the
get points
no
for
no in the fantasy I think so.
Honestly, in the
Or
finals,
you, yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure, but I know for sprint race weekends you would get points. Because remember now for the sprint races, well, last year they did it. The first three people got points, but this year they do any first five places in the sprint race will get points.
so that's why I feel for fantasy sake, George Russell could be a good show because as you said, Mr. Saturday, he is the man that exercise to race a
Mhm.
shitty car and
Yeah.
still make
At least overlap. At least overlap. He could string a lap together. Maybe over the race, his racecraft is not great.
yeah.
But yeah, agreed. So yeah, that's a fair point.
That's
All right, you
But then
see,
at the end of the day, where the points come is at where you finish on in the race. So
Right.
yeah, he could be
So-
Mr. Saturday and he could qualify in the front, but is he gonna be able to defend and race and
we
stay
won't
in the
miss the
front for the
Sunday.
race?
Yeah, we won't miss the Sunday.
Yeah, the more important person is Mr. Sunday.
It's
Agreed.
absolutely-
Right? And Chief Deputy Sunday looking like Max. We could jump on the Max, or I don't want to flay anybody nostrils or get anybody upset, you know.
Hey,
Right?
do
I
your
personally-
thing.
I just
I
wanted-
personally didn't put him in any of my teams just because
So,
we have
Kelsey
no love
Priest.
for him right
Kelsey
now.
Priest. Kelsey
No
Priest.
love for this
But
man. Look.
if it is, I had to be objective and
Right.
not think with my heart. Max could go as a driver.
Yeah. I agree with you there. Because
No.
listen, at the end of the day, he don't miss him.
He does it. He don't miss.
He don't miss. He always pull and he always on that podium.
Yeah, Max.
Unless
He's
he
like,
crash and the
or he
race,
get a
like,
bad luck
legit.
and he can't those things.
That's
No,
the only reason
that's
why
it.
he won't get
As much as we might not like Max the person, Max the driver, and even his driving is questionable at times, Max is still a great driver. He's talented, he's aggressive, he understands racecraft. Like, I think what set him apart is 2016 when he was in Brazil. You ever saw that image of him drifting that last corner? He lost control, but he was able to control the car into a drift through that last corner and keep it out of the wall. And he would have been like 18 or 19 when that happened because he joined Formula One. He joined Formula One and started racing in Formula One before he had an actual driver's license.
Wow.
madness.
Now, something I want to bring to the viewers' attention and to you guys' attention. There's a term. So in FPL, we know captain. In this, it's called turbo driver. Now,
Yeah.
the thing, a turbo driver, you can apply, let's say captain, you're driving your team, right? This person, excuse me, sorry, whatever points they get is double. Now, the catch is that the person has to be priced 20 million under. So it cannot be one of your main boys. So with that in mind, I was thinking to not even go, no, we're not doing that on this team. I was just giving a little advice from a fantasy perspective. So if I'm picking a team and really want to maximize my points, of course, again, based on what happened, what to come Sunday, because you can't put it on Max, you can't put it on George, you can't put it on Lewis. The next best person is Leclerc. Because
True.
Leclerc is clearly up there with them, great driver, Ferrari, great constructor, right? So I may not have even pick any of those. I would have picked Leclerc and then full with some fudders. So I would have probably brought in the Mercedes, brought in Leclerc, and so that way I still get some of the Lewis and George points. Brought in Leclerc, make him a turbo driver, and then go for all the other guys that pulled last year, and you will be able to do it within your budget.
Yeah.
What you think about that? Too safe?
That makes sense. I wouldn't
No,
say too
that
safe.
sounds good.
I think, I mean, going on past experience and not
Yes.
and holding
past
our breath.
experience. Yes.
Right, and holding our breath for Sunday, that's a safe way to go to maximize your points. And that's it. You crack the code. If you choose the best car or the constructor that's gonna be pulling the most points, you're gonna be getting that points from them. So you don't necessarily need the driver as well because you're gonna get the points from there.
Why have Hamilton and George on your team, and then you have the Mercedes,
And you
It's
have
still getting
Mercedes.
you know?
You're gonna be just adding the same points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have the best car, and then you roll out with everybody
With
else.
Well, let's see
drivers
what that
from all
looks
other
like then.
teams.
Let's see what that looks like.
But look at this too.
Mm.
If you have Mercedes, so you're getting points from them, right? Then you have Red Bull there. So let's say you have 2 Red Bull men, or at least one. You can afford the 2 Red Bull men because where the next man is. I ain't even seen him on the top.
Sergio is
He's only 17.
Yeah, he's only 17.
So that is in my head. That's the top 2 teams there already. You're getting points from 2 teams. So you're getting points from 2 drivers on either side, Mercedes and Red Bull.
Yeah.
I never really look at it like that, but I think that's our next kind of.
Yeah, that's our way to finesse the thing.
You all are you see, and that's what I love about this. You all know the sport, but again, we playing it. We have a way. Must have a
Yeah,
way.
you all know how to play the game.
You know, to play the game. I don't know
must
how to
have a
play the
way.
game. Yeah.
You know, must have a way to
to
finesse it. I like when they say finesse it up. Must have a way.
Yeah.
Because after
you're getting points
either way.
right through because all of them top in the charts. Like there's first, second, third Mercedes, Red Bull. However, it land is always
Because we could even
it's
come
always,
down the road.
always a kind of 1-2 or 1-3 Mercedes, something like that.
Yeah.
So who amongst these guys here, these fathers here, who amongst these? No, I mean Bottas, of course, if you want. But besides Bottas, who's a good one to look at?
Who I think will be pulling points this year, boy.
You had to scroll up a little bit. You had to scroll up a little bit for Gasly.
Gasly.
Right.
Yeah, but we don't have the budget for Gasly.
Oh, you had the budget for Gasly. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's right.
okay,
Well,
so you
it's
had
an
to use
average
it.
of 11 per person, eh?
Yeah.
So it's
Okay,
an average of.
Because we have 4
So
spaces
yeah,
to go and there's 47 left. So we have to at least go with somebody 11 or 8 or 9, that kind of thing.
Right.
Hey, Lando way.
Lando is how much? Lando is 16.
16.
Yeah, Lando. I think Lando a bit out the budget. We know why you want Lando, but Lando out the budget.
Okay, no. So the constructor here is the problem.
No.
No, it's not a problem because I would say from here you could go with one of the guys from Alpine, be it Fernando or Ocon, because they're both more or less. Well, yeah, there's a difference of half a million.
We could train up Fernando there, right? So Fernando.
Right. Then you scroll down. You have how much to play with? 35 mil.
35. So we could get.
So I say you could even go 3 more people. So that's about
11
million a person. Yeah, 11 a man, 11.5. So you could start between Seb and Lance. I personally, Seb is a great driver. I have a love for Seb, but do I think he's gonna be podiuming? Well, not podiuming, but score any kind of points you're gonna want.
On what happened today on that video I see, where Lance was already racing against Alonso. I think Stroll will be the better.
Yeah, I honestly think Stroll will be a better option, and then we had to remember the thing too, the man that own Aston Martin is Lance's father.
Oh, yeah.
So whether Seb is the better driver, they're going to give focus and priority to Lance.
Yep.
So they're gonna build the car and design the car around Lance and his driving style and what does he think. So I think Lance is the better choice between the two Alpine. Between the two Aston guys.
Now I'm no big mathematician, but we could get a 16 and a 9 driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? We could go for a 16. Somebody
So you could get your Lando.
We could get Lando.
Exact 16.
Right? You have 9.5 to play with, so you come down the road. Right? So we have Bottas, Sonoda. I don't know, you all know who's the better option. Bottas, obviously, or no?
Bottas will be the better
Bottas
option.
is definitely the better option as a driver. But then you also have to consider the car that he's driving.
So
as much as the driver is good, the car, you have to take into consideration is the car gonna put him in the top 10 to get the points that he needs? So
I
although
think he will over Sonoda because Sonoda still have a percentage of crashing per race now. Like
true, and he's still learning how to drive.
and he's
But
still learning how to drive.
yeah, so let's go based on
So in
experience.
terms
Bottas
of
is the better man to
finishing
choose.
the race, Bottas go finish the race.
True.
Right.
Because men like Sonoda and the backer field now. These guys just crash literally. Don't even finish a race something though.
Yeah, quite true.
So as much as they could be the better option in terms of the car they're driving, they
The
won't get points.
inexperience.
Yeah, they won't get the points.
But then the next thing to consider with when you're choosing either a midfield car or midfield driver is that the midfield is very close right now. If it is you go based on last year, the Mercedes and the Red Bulls will pull off into the distance and they'd fight between themselves. Whereas in the midfield you have McLaren, Ferrari, Alpine, Alpha, 4 cars fighting. Meaning to say they more or less evenly paced, that kind of thing. So one person hit the next one in fighting, that's 2 people out. So you had to think about the teams that they're racing for that, because that way you'll know, okay, these cars more or less evenly matched. So if it is we go based on that, watching the drivers that you have here, Alonso and Stroll will be fighting. Then Norris and Leclerc will be fighting. So they fight.
Yep.
So that's it. So if they fighting now, they battling hard, one of them crash. That's all your points out the window there.
I like that. See, I like that viewpoint.
So that's something to consider too, and if you're choosing your drivers. So if it is you say you didn't have Lando and you don't have somebody in your team directly fighting with Leclerc,
right,
you have a greater chance in that one, because the goal and the name of the game in this is having drivers that will finish in the top 10.
Finish, correct.
Finish in the top 10. So
not even podium, just the top 10. Yeah.
Just in the top 10, because that's where you're gonna get your points from.
Points. Yeah.
So and that's the formula. Exactly. So you're one person who will consistently finish in our top 10. Because look at Alonso. Alonso wasn't he didn't have any podiums or anything last year, but he consistently finished in the top 10, hence why it is he finished where he finished.
Yeah.
Lando, for example, only had, I think, 1 podium or 2 podiums last year.
2 podiums.
2 podiums. And he finished. But he other than those 2 podiums, he was consistently in the points. Most times in the top 5.
Yeah. He almost went out.
Like that. So who we turbo driving?
I recommend Leclerc.
I honestly would turbo Norris. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, I like that.
For this one.
Why I would say Norris over Leclerc is that if we go based on last year, McLaren's car was better. And then Norris, as much of a clown Norris personality is, he's a hard driver. So he liked to fight on track. And I think he and Leclerc met a couple of times on track last year. And I think Norris won those battles with Leclerc. And that could be based on car, but I also think that Leclerc maybe
Ferrari wasn't they had that good luck there too.
Yeah, true.
And right now, based on
what we're seeing, Ferrari
right now, they have a car.
So yeah, it's
Leclerc.
Leclerc, yeah. So it's between Leclerc and Norris. After Sunday, you could see with greater
certainty. You can see for sure. Yeah, but
what are some of the? Obviously, I have to call a particular racer. Let me call a racer. So okay, let's say we turbo driving Leclerc, right? Asking you all, for Leclerc, some advice on Leclerc. What are some of? Does he have a bogey track? Does that exist for some? I know. Lewis has some. I can't remember the one that my friend would have told me. I think he has 2 or 3 early ones.
He premium one.
No, bogey as in a track that catches tail, some kind of obia. Somebody the jumpy is real.
Okay.
The buck is real serious on that
Sadly for him is actually his home race.
The home race.
In Monaco.
But yeah, the Monaco track, yeah. Not the Ferrari home race, but the Monaco.
Leclerc, yeah. So Leclerc is Monegasque. So he was born in Monaco. And for the past, I think 3 years since he joined Ferrari, he could never catch a break racing in Monaco.
He almost won last year in Monaco, and he crashed.
We
And this is his home track, eh?
He driving in front of his store. He's buying bread and thing, dog. Like it literally. He home, dog. He see any neighbors and thing when he driving.
right. Yeah, I know he said that he literally grew up on that street near where they are.
Yeah, like he said, he used to grow up watching the race in his room. And if he walked to his veranda or gallery, he's literally watching the race cars pass in front of his window.
Yeah.
That's mad. That's mad. Right? Because now this is something that we'll talk about weekly, these bogey track. Because I'm not sure. I know I can't remember which track, but my friend told me that Lewis has a few. I think one of them is early in the season. Normally has a real bad track that he normally doesn't do too well. I think even crashed.
I think that might be Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan. Yes, it was that one.
Yeah.
Baku. That's Baku, right?
Baku. That is
Yes.
Baku. Azerbaijan is Baku.
That is it. That is it.
That's like
That
the
is it.
second or third race on the calendar.
Right. I know it's normally early. Yes. It was early last season.
Baku.
And he was telling me yes that Baku is one of his.
Yeah, he could have won because Max tire blew up on him and he crashed and Lewis was starting the race. They red flagged the race, I think. And Lewis was restarting the race in second place or something like that. And it was his race to win. All he had to do was make that first corner and he could have drive off into the distance because nobody was going to challenge him. And he accidentally pressed a switch. The brakes lock up. He went straight on and he ended up at the back of the grid.
Press up. Right. So we'll lock it off there for now. Right, Antonio, next week, I spare this weekend. Next week, we'll display your team. But if you want to see his team in the thumbnail, right, he didn't know I was going to do that. But his team is in the...
That's not my team, huh? That's your team.
Right, his team is in the thumbnail. That's the C team. Right?
Oh, yes, C team.
Because when we play fantasy, we like to mix up and have 3 teams, scout teams, and that kind of thing. So, but this one I might make a next team. But for our league, you can see the code in the runner there. There's 2 teams right to be using for now in our league, and of course I'll put the code, I'll put the link as well in the description. I want to thank my brilliant and knowledgeable guests, Michael and Ezra, and we have more pundits lined up, right, from Ezra's crew and Antonio. I think you have some other guys to bring on. I myself have some people I will try to bring
Some young ladies to bring on.
Right, so Michael, any closing words before we go? Before we party, any closing, anything you want to throw out, any banter, anything at all to get up your chest for Sunday, anything?
I mean, I'm going at the end, when we finish, I'm probably gonna just watch the highlights from the test today to get a better gauge of what might happen next week. But I think I don't have any banter to trade too early in the season to do that.
You didn't watch the highlights yet. That's why you didn't catch what I say.
I was in work, boy. I went straight from work to buy the mechanic, so I didn't get a chance to properly watch that.
What I was saying is Lance was racing Alonso. And he wasn't supposed to race him. They just testing.
Them want to play.
Yeah.
And then I think Gasly, I saw Gasly top the charts today. But Lewis had on C5 tires. He didn't even have on soft tires to put on that time. And then you had to consider, and they said, but you had to consider what Mercedes did, eh? Mercedes have no side pod right now, eh?
They have
so
it's small. Like
it's a 0 side pod, dog. Compared to everybody else, to have no side pod on that car. But yeah, I think my closing words would be for anybody interested in Formula One, it's not just cars going around in a circle. It's so much more. There's the strategy. You might say, okay, well, in football, you have strategy, the formation you're using. If you're using a offside trap to get the guys to feed them up, so you could then launch the ball up with one man there to score. Or what we have strategies similarly in Formula One, where you put your driver earlier and you undercut the guy in front of you, you overcut him, whatever. So there's a lot of different aspects in Formula One to appreciate, aside from just people going around a track as fast as possible. So at least give the sport a listen, watch a race or 2, and you might appreciate it. And it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be real exciting this season.
Thanks for
Yeah,
that. So, Ezra, any closing words, Ezra? Talk to us.
yeah. I mean,
Encourage the viewers.
this year will be is one of the is like a complete change of the sport. Like
Mhm.
there's a whole new era that we get to witness. So like it's no longer what used to what the done in the old days is a whole new era of racing, a whole new cars, so new experiences. So I think now is the best time for new people to come on
Take
board
I mean, exactly, yeah.
to be a part of the new era of racing, because even the drivers new to it. Even
Mhm.
the teams new to it. So I think now is probably the best
It's a
time
learning
for
process for
people.
everybody.
Yeah, everybody learning over the whole thing. So yeah, I think now will be the best time to jump on board and do that. Aside from that, Lando Norris for the championship this year, and yeah, that's it.
All right. All
Nah,
right. I
Lewis is
like
going
that.
for his ninth. Lewis is
It's
getting his
eight,
ninth. His ninth.
ninth
I
next year.
his ninth this year.
Now, I
Because
Okay.
understand where
in
you're
my
coming
head,
from. I
in
understand
my
where you're
head,
coming from.
Lewis is an
I
eight-time
understand where you're
world
coming from. I
champion.
understand already. I understand already. I understand
He
loud time.
going for his ninth champion this year. You know how for this there was some movie and the person lost the championship, but they were the people's champion.
Yeah.
Lewis was the people's champion.
This year for sure. Yeah.
All right, I give it that.
You
Antonio,
know, you
we are
ever
going
see a
to.
villain? Like, you ever know you're just watching him and you know he's a villain now? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
that's Max.
Max in it. Max in
Yeah,
it
that's
for
Max.
long enough.
Yeah.
Like, you just see him and you know
That's the villain.
That's
That's
the
the
one,
villain.
you know.
Yeah.
Since I was watching that thing, since Ricardo was there, so the way how he used to treat, he used to anytime I ask him anything about feelings, he used to be like, "Well, if you leave, you leave. He don't really care now, boy. He just whoever come
Yeah,
up,
he,
just there now. Be focused on himself now, boy." And he
hmm
knows man backing him, so it's like, and the man that really like him, so it's like wherever.
Yeah.
And then it's his father who make him like that. His father was incredibly like if you read on his childhood and thing, because his father is a former Formula One driver. And he built him and he trained him on how to race and that kind of. His father was incredibly hard on him. So other drivers who had a childhood, who had caring, loving parents, Max didn't have that. So Max had, and. So I mean, I could understand that to some extent, but at the same time, he too aggressive.
Wait, so I have a question before you go. So,
Yeah.
Lewis Senior, right? He went and shake Max father hand at the end of the championship last year.
At the end of the race, yeah, he actually
And
went and congratulated both Max and his father.
Yeah. Went to the team. Yeah.
I really noticed that man was like, "What you come here for? Eh? Like,
Yeah,
why you
they
come
don't
to shake his
understand
hand?"
sportsmanship.
Yeah. Because
Wait.
Max was never going across to that camp. Willingly.
Exactly.
Willingly.
Had exactly. And even willing, he was never going.
Yeah.
Even they couldn't pay him or force him to go and congratulate Lewis if it Lewis had won.
Yeah.
Wait.
Didn't pay me enough to go. Telling
His
you.
father would have been cussing and getting on and mashing up thing if it is Lewis had won.
Yeah.
Dog, the
And
last
that just
thing
shows the
happened.
character behind Lewis and his family and whatever.
Yeah. But we're going to break down that last season next week as our build up for the season. We're doing a nice season preview next week. We should have more guests to come on next week. But if not, we have enough because I love the way that you guys carry the show. And Tony and I have a next show to do at 9:30. Of course, guys, FPL. We have double game week 20 to discuss and 29 to discuss. Pookie was amazing today as always. So we're going to talk about that coming up. Right?
I
And
know
also,
you are Chelsea
I want you all
fans.
to bring me on one of these and help and teach me.
that's not a
Football,
problem.
yeah.
There's
I
no
won't mind learning
problem.
football.
There's no problem. I will definitely do that, right? And of course, guys, we have IPL coming up as well very soon. Antonio, let them know when is IPL again?
2026.
Right? So we're going to be doing something similar to this very soon for IPL as well. So as usual, guys, the fantasy people in your Uber Fantasy Sport, stay tuned in the next few minutes. Right? Just at 9:30, we'll be coming through with another live discussing FPL. Again, I want to thank my great guests, Michael and Ezra, for coming through, and you'll see their faces throughout the season. And of course, happy picking and all the best, guys. We'll catch you all next week.